Hi you guys, welcome back to Creatively Crafted Life. My name is Melanie, and if you've been following along on my channel, you know I've been going through my die slash embossing folder slash stencil storage, mostly focused on dies. And I have this is technically two containers, a divided one and then a single, and then I have this one here as well as this one. This obviously has not been gone through. And I just wanted to share with you how much space I've actually managed to save. So we talked a lot about how many inches, but I just thought it would be interesting to have a visual. So this bin here is very full. This one, I don't know if you can see, there's a little bit of space at the back. This one here, there's also a bit of space at the back. So that looks pretty good. This is like half empty, right? I could fit all of this over here, but it's a really tight fit. So pretty much it's half empty. And then this one here is half empty, but all of these have to do with my punches. So I do have representations of my punches that I store in these bins, just as a reminder that I do have them. I haven't gone through my punches yet, so that's why those are out separate. I'm hoping to combine some of those as well and you know, basically compress how much space it all takes up. So the next step is going to be fixing the dividers and labels and stuff on the files. So I did reconfigure my themes a little bit, so I'll show you that in a minute. I also used to have a numbering system on here, which I have taken those off of all of the stickers. I've also gotten rid of all the different size envelopes. I've only kept these kind of standard 5x7-ish envelopes. Even the ones that came in like that, those nice plastic envelopes from Sizzix, I got rid of them. It just makes more sense to have a consistent size for one, looks, and two, also for how to label these and manage this going forward. I am also revamping my inventory system. So up until now, I've kept everything in Adobe Photoshop Elements. I'm converting it over to Airtable, and I am reworking how I store all of this stuff. So I'm going to move you over to my desk, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about what changes I'm making and how I'm implementing this. And it's not going to be an overnight project, so this is just more of a, this is where I'm at and where I'm headed to. Okay, so what you see in front of you is a listing of my categories, and I'm calling this 3/8 of an inch dot, and I'll explain that in a minute. Dies, embossing folder, stencils, divided bins, and of course I also have single bins, but basically that just denotes that this is that area that I just showed you. I know what that means. I have the different categories, so I am splitting my categories out into the following for those of you that have asked and are interested. So I have vintage florals. Christmas is split into 3 categories. I've got words, snowflakes, and icons. Then I just have general icons. I've got frames, banners, tags, borders and backgrounds, animals, nature, artistic, circles, ovals, so that's one category, hearts, rectangles, squares is another, stars, other shapes, scene building, word alphas, celebrations, and travel. So these are typically things that I work with. So I often will say, let's say make a birthday card. So having a category like celebrations makes sense to find really birthday themed product. Now I also mentioned that I have an online catalog, which I'm revamping, and that will also help me search for specific items. So for instance, if I wanted to find specifically an owl stamp or an owl die, I could do a search and it would tell me exactly where that particular item is in my stash or what options I have along with photos, which is great. I love that. But I also love having just general categories. So when I know that I'm going to go make, let's say, a boy themed birthday card, I can go just to the celebration section or maybe the stars sections and look for something that is inspiring. So it just gives me a way to narrow down my stash a little bit without having to go to the inventory and search there. So options is basically what I'm looking at. You'll notice on the left hand side that I have some colors denoted. These specific colors I pulled from the stickers that I purchased off of Amazon. So I received a package of stickers that look like these. They are 3/8 inch dots, hence the 3/8 inch label in the title. This is 2 sheets of each of the colors. It comes with 5 sheets of each, but I don't need to have all of them sitting on my desk for this exercise. So I basically just aligned a color with each of the theme, and I try to color code based on the theme itself, which sounds kind of interesting and maybe a little bit strange. But for instance, vintage and florals, I think of like pinks, girly, that kind of thing. Christmas, I think of red, so that makes sense that I have more on the red side with those. Animals and nature, I think of green. And then basically whatever was left over I had allocated out accordingly. I wanted all my shapes to be in the same section because of course this is going to be the order that they will be in the bins. And so I specifically chose those towards the latter part of the rainbow and then the neutrals. So I have a color-coded sheet. I have all of my dies and stuff already sorted into those categories. I need to fix the dividers and I need to label them. So let's talk about the dividers. So for the dividers, I just went and took a Word document, split it into 2 columns, and basically added a title at the top. And I'm further splitting these into 3 sections. So I've got embossing folders is one section, dies and punches is what I'm calling the second one, and then the third is stencils. So in each section, the way it stands right now, I have embossing folders first, then the dies, then the stencils. I'm not sure if I am going to keep them that way, but the beauty of this is I can mix and match. So meaning I could keep them so that I have the themes in order, or I could pull out all the embossing folders, have them in theme order, all the dies in theme order, and all the stencils in theme order. I'm not sure that it makes a difference, so I'm not sure exactly how that's all going to play out, but because of the way I have this set up, it can go either which way, and if I don't like it one way, I can always switch it around. So I did print these off on 8.5 by 11 paper. I trimmed them down to 5 inches wide and I ran these through a laminator. So that's where we're at right now. I'm going to trim these to 5.5 inches, I think will fit in my bin. If not, we'll trim it down to 5 1/4, but I think 5.5 should do it. I added the corresponding theme dot in the corner, so you'll see the 3 vintage have the light pink, then the florals have the dark pink. We move into that kind of wine color for Christmas words, the red for Christmas icons. You get the idea. So that is what these are. I was not able to laminate all of the categories because I ran out of pouches, so those should be coming in the next day or so, and I will finish that up. So that is this. I'm going to trim these down and add those to the dividers, replacing the ones that I have in yellow right now. Okay, the other thing I want to talk about is how do I find these in my catalog? So I already mentioned that I'm going to be using these stickers to identify the general category. So one of these stickers will go on every item in that category. So anything that is vintage will have a pink dot on the package, so they know immediately that that's what that is. And then I also purchased these rolls of sequential numbers. And these are going to go in the upper right hand corner of the pocket, and that will denote the number in the catalog. And I have 5,000 of these, which should do my entire craft space. I'm only going to number embossing folders, dies, stencils, and stamps and probably punches, but I'm not sure about that one. I'm still thinking about that one. But this is what I'm going to use, so I don't have to create labels anymore. That's the whole point of me going this way. My old system required me to type up and create labels using my label maker, and I had to keep track of the numbering sequence for each category and each size of envelope, and it just became too much work. This is going to be much simpler, I think. So I had thought a couple of different ways of using these. I was thinking that I would use, for instance, this series for small envelopes, this one for the medium, this one for the next size up, etc. And because I have them split by embossing folders, separate from dies, separate from stencils, you know, I would just apply that logic for each one, right? So this would be smallest to largest. But because I've gotten rid of almost all the different sizes in each section, I think I'm just going to start with the 1000 and work my way up. What that means, though, is that my embossing folder section will have numbers, and then my dies will have numbers, and it may be that my embossing folders end at 20 and my dies start at 21. So they're not necessarily going to be consecutive within each category, if that makes sense. I don't really care. At the end of the day, the number is just a way for me to find it using my inventory system. So when I go to my inventory system, I will see that an embossing folder has a pink dot on it and has the number 20. So I know that I need to go to the pink section, aka my vintage section, in the embossing folders, because that's what I'm looking for, and find the number 20. So it doesn't matter if it doesn't have 21 or 22. I'm not looking for 21 or 22, I'm looking for 20. So I think that's how I am going to approach this. The same is what I'm hoping to do with my stamps. Now my stamps, we'll talk about that later on, because I do have a couple different sizes in there and I might switch it up, but I don't know. We'll deal with that when I get to it. So for my exercise today, I am not going to affix these yet, and I'm going to show you why. I'm going to go pull some items and I'll show you exactly how this is all going to come into play. Okay, so I pulled out all the items in the vintage section, and you'll see that they are sorted so that I have embossing folders, then I've got dies, and then I have stencils. So these will have a divider in between each one of those sections to easily delineate between the two. So all I'm going to be doing is adding the number in the upper right hand corner. I already did the embossing folders. The numbers are nice and big, which will make it easier for me to read, especially as I get older. So that's the embossing folders. Here's the dies. Again, like I said, they're all the same size. So it's just a matter of me adding the number in the upper right hand corner, just like so. Now the pink dots in this case, so these little dots, are going to go in this end of the, or this side of the pocket. I have currently the name on here, and I debated whether I should keep the name on the package or not, and I've decided that I'm going to pull the name off. When I go through my items looking for something to use, right, I don't really look at the names, so this is a bit redundant. I have to leave the names on here though, because I haven't cataloged these yet, so I need to go and find that this is burst and add the number 10 to it in the vintage category so that I know where to find it. So I still will have access to the name, it's just not going to be on the packaging. And why am I doing that? Because one, I think having the pink dot in the left hand corner across all packages will look better. And then the other thing is that when you get to something like this, where I have multiple names for the items in the package, this looks messy. Of course, it also looks messy because I have different font sizes and stuff, but even if this was all the same font size, it just would not look great. I did debate about adding the names on a piece of paper in the back, but that just felt like a make-work project. Now, to many of you, maybe all of this seems like a make-work project, but that just, for me, that was a little bit redundant. I really don't need the names on here other than to catalog these and be done with it. So my next step, and what I'm going to work on today, is to get all of these numbered And then as I get them into my inventory system, I will peel off this label and add the corresponding dot, and then I'll know that that particular package has been dealt with completely and I no longer need to use it. So that is what I'm doing with my organization or labeling or filing or whatever you want to call it of my dies. There are so many different ways that you can categorize and keep track of your stash. And really ultimately at the end of the day, what I'd like to encourage you is to do something that works for you. So this is what I think will work for me. I'm not saying it's going to work indefinitely because life changes. But it's really important that you make your system work for you so that you can manage and maintain it, and hopefully you can take some inspiration and make it your own. Thanks so much for hanging out with me, and until next time, happy organizing.